Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, we're going to go over signs that you're charismatic, and we're going to use research. This video was requested. I've made this video before, but a lot of you guys ask about it even still, and I think it's because some of you guys are new. And sometimes I get to your comments, but sometimes I don't, and I apologize if I miss your comments. Sometimes I'm just not in the comments section because I'm very busy, but sometimes I don't know what to say to you guys. And this is a little bit of a tangent before we get into the video, because most of you guys are normal in the sense, normal from my perspective, like I can understand you, but sometimes some comments are made that I don't actually know what to say or what to do. Like I had one comment on one of my videos where he was saying like, oh, she should, like addressing, talking about me, she should like demonstrate what she's talking about. And then he replied to his own comment to some extent. It was like, oh, she's probably not going to demonstrate it because she's wearing makeup and she doesn't want to mess up her makeup. And like that video, I was literally not wearing any makeup. And so it's like, how do I even address that? Because now I guess you guys can't tell when I'm wearing makeup and when I'm not. So that I guess my makeup skills are like trash. All I wear is mascara, but like that's the stuff you put on your eyelashes, and like I can tell when I'm wearing it and when I'm not, but I guess you can't. And so it's kind of hard for me to reply because some things are just so, like, you make so much assumptions and I don't know how to answer them because I basically there's nothing to say because almost every part of the comment is incorrect to some extent. So it doesn't mean I don't listen to you guys and I'm not paying attention to what you're saying. Just sometimes there's just so many stuff that I don't know what to respond to. But this one was asked a lot and I did see this comment. And so the first way that I notice, and based on research as well, that you might be someone who's perceived as charismatic is you use a person's name when addressing them often and usually for positive emphasis. So if you're looking at conversations, let's say you're observing conversations, the individual who uses somebody's name when they're talking actually does show that the other person almost perceives them not just in a more positive way, but also pays more attention to what they are saying. And it's used in a very positive way, so the person does not feel negative towards them. So why I keep saying positive is, let's say somebody addresses someone's name only when they're like lecturing them. That's going to create a very negative, uncomfortable connotation and perspective of themselves, but also of you. But if they use it in a positive way, like let's just say your name is Jeff. They might say something like, Jeff, I completely agree. That makes so much sense. It's going to make a little bit more, like you're going to be more comfortable with that person, for example. So that's one. The next one is if you remember details about a person, you ask thoughtful questions. And this is a perception of somebody being genuinely engaged. Research shows that people actually leave these conversations feeling more valued and more likely to want to talk to you again. And so you actually become more magnetic, and that person is magnetized towards you, which is very interesting. And I really like this one. The next one, this research was 2011, and it supports the idea that when you use specific verbal and nonverbal behaviors, and if you're doing this, you'll understand this, examples being metaphors, storytelling, moral conviction, even animated tone of your voice, which we'll talk about a little bit later because there's another research that I want to talk about with that one. People can this can literally reliably increase others' perceptions of your charisma specifically. And if you are a person that does this, storytelling is a really good example, then you may be somebody that people are really drawn to. I've talked about this before, that my dad is a businessman and he has a couple businesses. And every time we go and do anything, this can be a little bit annoying if you're not used to this, but I'm very used to this. He will talk about business with like, anybody there. Like over Christmas, he's in Florida, so this might be odd if you're not from Florida. It's still really warm. And so we were grilling one of those days. And the other guy's grill wasn't working, like it wasn't lighting. And so my dad was trying to show him how it works. And then my dad kind of like did some story about when he, why he's so into grilling. Like my dad loves grilling, right? He knows how to prepare for it. And so he was like telling a story. And in between telling that story, the gentleman and his buddies got kind of drawn in. And then he started talking about his business and like some stuff that he offers and et cetera. And then he exchanged his number and whatever it is, right? But these gentlemen were like very drawn to what my dad was saying because of the storytelling aspect is what I've always seen. And my dad always does that. He's always like, somehow he throws like a storytelling thing, and it's always like kind of like indirect. Like he might be talking about hunting and then suddenly it starts going into like somehow he's talking about business, and it's charismatic to some extent, and it expresses like confidence, and a lot of people are very drawn to that, which is why I think he's pretty successful in business, because he's able to do that and make people feel heard, but he's also being helpful, right? He's helping them with their grill. And so these are the things that I notice. It's just a random example, but I feel like examples, like personal examples, can help as well. So that's just some ways that people do it. The next one is increased vocal expressiveness. Now, research does show that folks who are perceived as charismatic by other people, they vary in pitch, volume, and speaking rate. And so the speaking rate changes depending on if the individual wants emphasis towards that particular aspect, or if they're feeling like it's not as imperative or important to the actual means, the topic. They may change that rate, the pitch, the tone, the volume. And people see this a lot. Actually, even individuals who are not very charismatic do this. I do not consider myself someone who is entirely charismatic. I don't think that I am. However, I can come across confident when it comes to certain aspects of what I'm doing or what I'm comfortable talking about in terms of research. Like if I'm presenting or something like that. You guys might not necessarily see that because I just make videos. But interesting enough, when I'm with my significant other or like in more personal settings, I'm actually, you might be able to tell, but I'm pretty soft spoken. I don't talk much unless I have to or unless I need to. Usually with my friends, I'm like the one who just tags along. Like if they're like, hey, let's go and do this, I'm like, okay, let's just do it. Like I'm very, I don't know, laid back in that way. So I'm not very aggressive or assertive. That's probably obvious. But when it comes to something I'm comfortable talking about, I can talk about it quite a lot. And I think that when I do that, I notice the speaking rate and change is very different comparison to when I'm talking more personal. And that's common with anybody typically. And research shows that even more so, it shows a charismatic leader and they're more strongly content with what they're saying as well, which other people feel more connected to that. The next one is you use deliberate pauses for positive emphasis. I have seen this a lot. I have not done research on this, but I have a colleague of mine who was talking about doing some research about why individuals speak a certain way and how it influences others from a social psychology perspective, which is a little bit of a different angle, but there is research on this in 2016 that does show that folks who use an emotional tone as well as deliberate emphasis, like pauses, does emphasize the message, and it does predict strongly charismatic individuals in particularly business and the context of business and political contexts, which is very, very interesting. I really like that one. The next one is you use inviting nonverbal communication. If you do this, a lot of people do this naturally, but you might notice smiling, open body language. Some people say talking with your hands. I know people think that's annoying. I'm a hand talk. I mean, I talk with my hands. You guys know that. You guys make fun of me all the time about it. But these types of things are actually, they increase likability to some extent, not all the time, but it does increase that perceived charisma because the individual is almost painting a story of what they are talking about. Smiling, open posture, eye contact, things like that is very imperative. And if you do that, you might be aware of that. And a lot of people who are more shy, it does seem based on research, 2019, it does seem like people who are a little bit shy, closed off, they have a closed off stance. They do these things less often. They do not necessarily use a lot of their body when they're communicating. They just use, let's just say, their vocal usage. So they're just speaking. They're not doing really anything else. Whereas people who are a little bit more comfortable with certain social settings, they're more comfortable using multiple variables to communicate what they're saying. The next one is based on research. This was 2018. There is a use of upright posture to enhance presence. Okay. So there is mixed evidence of the hormone. One of the research said that there was some hormonal effects that is occurred that other individuals might feel that hormonal effect. However, There's another research that does not replicate those results. So I'm going to say that one's mixed evidence. It does happen in research. But the one part that was replicated was that upright posture does enhance positive presence, which individuals are more drawn to. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's hormonal. One research said it was, one research said it doesn't. However, the expansive posture, both of them do replicate that it does create feelings of presence and individuals are more drawn to you. So if you feel like this makes sense for you, you are probably someone who's charismatic. The research is in the description box. I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.